Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Bonsai's Forever. This is Jay. So if you were one of those that saw my last video, don't go looking because I took it down. Yeah, it's been hectic around here. And I reposted a video. I actually re-edited the video, took a little bit of crazy stuff out of there, and then reposted it, thinking that was my most recent video that I worked on, and it ends up that I reposted it a second time. So yeah, it's been kind of hectic around here. Good news though, I went over to one of the hardware stores near me and I was just looking around, and the manager came up to me and asked me if I needed help with anything, and we got talking and told him about my bonsai trees, and he offered to give me a spot at the store to sell my trees. So that is super awesome. So March 13th I will be selling some of my lower dollar bonsai trees at the Ace Hardware here in Panama City. So that's super exciting for me. I've been really looking forward to selling my trees for a while, and it's just been pretty awesome lately actually. So not that things are going bad, it's going good. That's why my videos are kind of suffering lately. So don't worry though, because I'm gonna get back into this and hit it hard. I've got a lot of work to do. Not necessarily today. I just kind of want to do an update today, but I've got a lot of work to do out here. So I'll be doing some more videos here in the near future. I'm gonna try and be posting at least once a week again. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. So also the farmers market that I've been taking my trees to, I've been selling trees there and doing pretty good with it. So that's how I've been able to afford my addiction. Say it that way because it kind of is. I love bonsai trees. I definitely addicted to it. I spend a lot of time working on them and watching videos on them and learning about them. So anyway, let's get to the trees at hand. I did a video. It is actually kind of warm out here today. It's nighttime, but anyway, so I did a video on my ficus benjaminas right after it got really cold out here, and some of them didn't make it at all, and some of them I cut them way back. This tree was like out here, if you can see that in the video. It was way out there. It was actually a really nice looking tree. It's not doing bad. This one actually fared better than a lot of them. So I'm gonna go through and do a little bit of cleanup on the trees. I'm not gonna reshape any of this stuff yet. I'm going to let it recover. It is recovering nicely, but I really just don't want to push it yet. I want to let it get some really good growth on it. I want to let all this new growth out here harden off. I'm going to check the camera. Yeah, make sure that you guys can see everything. Yeah, you can. So I'm going to let all of this new growth harden off and see what more new growth I get out of it, and then I'll go back and choose which branches I want to take out, because there is a lot of stuff in here that is going to be really cluttered at some point, like right up in this section, and you know it's going to be a little cluttered. So I am going to go back through and pick which branches I want to keep, which branches look good, and which branches are going to be growing in the wrong direction or growing into something else, or just too many branches in one spot, that kind of stuff. I will go back and take care of all that. I am going to do a little bit of cleanup on it though, because there are some spots that have dead ends. I'm just going to cut those back to, I think I've said this before, if you cut them, if you cut them back, like see how this branch is going laterally here, if I cut this back before this grows too thick, it'll start turning upwards. So I'm going to make sure and cut these back so that I can get good directional growth out of things. I'm also going to cut back the dead branches that are just, they've got nothing on them. Just cut those back. I'm using my branch cutters just because it's easier to get in there, I guess. Not that you have to use branch cutters for this. These branches really aren't that thick. But if you've watched any number of my videos, you know that I do weird things. And some of this stuff I might actually later on cut back farther into the tree and redo the shape of the canopy, because honestly it looks like the canopy is going to be closer to this height. But I could also let some of these smaller branches grow out into this, and I know I've said this before, these trees grow really relatively quickly. I mean, not really fast and not out of control, but if you have a little bit of patience, they do grow quicker than some other trees. And the smaller branches, the little twiggy branches like this, if you let them run for a little while, they will thicken up and be more proportional to where they're located. I'm not going to cut back because right here I've got this tiny little branch. You can see it, a tiny little branch right here. I'm not going to cut this tip back because I don't want to ruin that. I'll let that grow a little bit and then I'll cut that back. So I'll keep an eye on this tree, and I probably won't film that because it'll be one branch and I really don't need to do a whole video on one branch. My other scissors. What did I do with these? Oh yeah, I left them outside. I'll use these, it's okay. I'll clean them off with my fingers. So there it is. I saw a branch and I'm like, wait, where'd you go? Alright. I think that's going to be good for this tree. The scissors need sharpened. They're my root pruning scissors. There is a start of a branch right here. I'm going to leave that just for now, because sometimes the way I look at my trees is if I'm going to cut a larger branch off, like this branch, if I cut it back, like clear back into here and let this be the new leader, this could be a new tree. So I don't want to just chop it back like into tiny little pieces. I'll cut it back to where I want it to and then save the rest of it. So I don't want to just arbitrarily chop my tree, especially these trees, because these are my favorite trees. So that is going to do it for this tree for now. So I'm pretty excited that this tree has survived. It's doing pretty well. This is one of my older ficus benjaminas now, because last year I lost my two original cuttings that I got from my great-grandmother. So this is, I think this now is my oldest. Yeah, I think that's my oldest one now. So I'm going to try and keep it bigger. I want it to get bigger. I want it to get like that big. Just monster-sized tree. So it just jumped on me. Anyway, so I'm also going to pull the weeds out. So I think I've said this in another video that I've decided that the weeds are not a good idea in the tree. So I've let them grow before, and if you let the grasses grow in your tree, it really messes up the root structure, because it leaves really fine roots in there, and then it clogs up the soil. So I want the tree to clog up the soil rather than weeds to clog up the soil. Alright, so there's that one. I'm going to put this one aside. So this was one of the other trees that I had worked on right after the freeze, or I think I actually worked on this one right before the freeze, and then I worked on it again right after. And I did lose some major branches up here. Well, this major branch, some tips of branches. I lost the tip of this branch. So this one I will actually go back and do some major pruning on it also once the rest of this is hardened off. A lot of them look like they're pretty close to hardened off, because they'll turn like a really dark green. They'll get shiny, and that's how you can tell they've hardened off. I'm gonna grab a different pair of scissors. Got these tiny little scissors here. I used to use these a lot for cutting off leaves and stuff. So I'm going to cut off the rest of these burnt leaves on this one to give the new growth some place to be without being blocked, like this one is blocking the end of that. So now this will start growing upwards. Because a lot of times if you leave these larger leaves over the top of stuff, that it starts growing down and out of the way and getting long and leggy branches because they don't have any place to get light, so they're looking for light. So I'll take these off as soon as either as soon as the first leaf is hardened off, or it's got 2 or 3 leaves in on that branch that's new underneath that leaf. So yeah, there's going to be some branches in this area that I'm going to have to take off later on after some of this gets a little bit stronger. I need to sharpen my tools back up. I'm going to cut this one off I'm going to cut it off right here, but this one is dead, so I'm going to do it in pieces so that I can get right down in there. See if I can give it a little bit of shape here. I have seen where people will leave it flat, like a 90-degree cut, and I'm trying to remember why they said they did that. In this instance, it doesn't affect the growth of the tree because this branch is already established, but it'll affect the aesthetic of the tree if I don't cut it at an angle, because this looks better than it being flat. And this is all new growth up here, which is pretty cool. I think that's awesome. It's got some new leaves up here. This isn't alive at the tip here, so I'm going to take some of this wire off. I'll take the wire off back to here. And I'm going to cut this back to here. I did sharpen these the other day, so maybe I need to practice my sharpening skills on my tools. So there's a branch right here, so I'm going to cut it above that. So I'm going to cut it just right above it. And then there's a branch right here. That would be the leader for this. Basically right now I'm just kind of cleaning up the dead tips to all the branches, just so that we can have, you know, room for everything that is growing to grow into a place. Okay, so this right here, I'm going to bring you guys in closer for this. This is something that is pretty interesting, if you ask me. Hopefully we can see what I'm talking about without it getting blurry or anything. Okay. Oh, right there in the middle of the screen is this group of branches right here. It's got, what does it look like? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which this one is mostly dead. So it's got a whole bunch of branches right here, and I really don't need them in that position because I've got this branch and this one, which this one will be bent back up. I must have bumped it because it's supposed to be looking upwards. So I'm going to take this group of branches off. I'm not going to let this grow out to make another tree because then that would turn into a crazy mess and make a giant knob right there. So that's what came off. Wow, I'm way too close. There you go. So that's what came off. I could probably save a couple of these, but I'm not going to. And then that's what it left. And this will heal over pretty well. These trees do heal pretty nicely. So there's that. I'm going to cut. I think I might just unwrap this end here. I'm going to put the wire around this branch. I'm not going to make it tight around this branch, but I'm going to just use the wire to push that tiny little branch upwards. And I'm going to cut off this dead part. I'll do that first, and then I'll wire into this. So I don't want to kill that into the branch there. There we go. Now I can put this wire back around underneath of it and kind of just give it a little bit of a guidance. There we go. And that'll help it. It doesn't have to be super tight on some of these tiny little branches to give it some direction. As long as you're not moving it around or it's not blowing in the wind, then it'll stay where it's supposed to. Just cutting off all the dead stuff right now. Alright, so there's that. Pull the little weeds out of here. These trees are already dried out from watering them this morning. That's a good sign. It's a good sign that it's warming up. It's really exciting for me. I know I've said it a million times. I don't like the cold, so springtime is awesome. Alright, so there's that tree. I'm going to put this back over here. And honestly, I don't know. I was thinking I might re-bend some of this now that it doesn't have the same growth that it did. Might straighten this back up a little bit. Try not to damage stuff while I'm doing it. Try and make this the top of the tree again. It is kind of thick. It does bend at this maturity of the tree, but it is actually, no, it's not digging in yet, so I still have time, which is good. If the wire is starting to dig in, this is not a good time to do this, but since it's not, it should work out just fine. But yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. Bugs are starting to come out too. So I'm going to bend this out just a little bit, bend this back up just a touch right here. There we go. Yeah, I think I like that better. And of course, like this will come off later on. I'll let this back bud and get stronger, and then I'll maintain the size of that branch. And obviously I'll do that with all the branches, and I'll show you what I mean with changing the length of the branches and stuff as it's getting bigger. Alright, so I'm going to put this out. Alright, so then I've got this one. I know you've seen this one a couple of times if you've watched some of my older videos. This is the one that has the really crazy trunk on it. I'll get rid of some of this so you guys can see it. You know, actually, I think that this is one of my oldest tree. I think this is my oldest tree. I'm super thankful that it's not completely dead. It's got a lot of new growth down here. It's got something right here, here. It's got a lot of back budding on this tree, which is super awesome. It's really encouraging to see it doing that. So now I'm going to go ahead and take off the stuff that is not going to help the tree. I'm thinking I might leave this dead branch on here. I'm going to at least leave it on here for now. Maybe I'll ask y'all's opinion, what you think about that. Do I leave it? Do I get rid of it? But I'm going to leave it until I read comments and see what you guys say. So I know that tropical trees don't typically have much deadwood on it because of the humidity where they're from. It rots away anything that's died, and that stuff just falls off and goes away. So maybe it gives a story of recent trauma to the tree, and it just hasn't shed that branch yet or something. I don't know. So I am going to take off this right here because it's growing on the bottom of that branch. That's not going to do me any good. It's going to take forever to grow big enough to turn into a tree, and it'll mess up the bottom of this branch by doing that. So got to go. Stuff like that you got to be careful of. If it's going to mess up the tree later and you're trying to gain some more vigor in the tree, get rid of stuff that's going to mess up the tree, because it's better to get rid of that and let the other stuff take longer to fix the tree than to ruin the tree by trying to fix the tree. I hope that makes sense. Like this tree's got a ton of back buds, which is awesome, but quite a few of them that are in really precarious places, like right here. So this, I could probably leave this, or I can leave this to be the end of the branch. I'm going to cut the dead part off and then we'll look at it. Or, I've got a ton of stuff right in there. This has got to come off right here. This is dead, so that's not going to add anything to it. And I could very well leave this to grow out here. I think I am going to leave the lower one. If I could talk properly, that'd be awesome, right? Cut that off. I'm going to leave the lower one and see what that does, because that won't mess anything up right there as far as I can tell right now. I do have a little bit of time. I mean, it's not like it's going to mess it up overnight, so I can watch it as it grows and see its progression, and then decide whether it's going to be detrimental also. I mean, but if there's something that's super obvious, like that is not going to help the tree gain any vigor, or it's totally in the way, you know, that kind of stuff, then definitely get rid of that stuff right away. And this tree's just gone through a ton of trauma and dramatic changes the last what, 6 months, I think. 'Cause I tried something new and decided it was a very bad idea. I put some trees on my front porch, and the front porch, I don't know what it is about the front porch. It's like a heat ray or something over there. So you guys can't see this whole tree. Sorry about that. That's going to be part of what I look for in a camera when I get a new camera, is to be able to see from this angle what I'm filming on the camera, so I can make sure and not have you guys watching my hands outside of the range. And now I don't know what I was talking about. Oh yeah, I put it on my front porch, and it's like a heat ray out there or something, because it literally killed 3 of the trees that I put out there. Like, just, and it was quick. I mean, it was a couple of weeks, and they were doing good, dead. Like, all the foliage fell off, and they just dried up and died. And I was watering them. I think I was watering them every day, and I was going out there and checking on them and watching them, and they seemed to look fine, and they just died. So, bad place to keep my trees. So I have to keep them in the backyard in my nursery. Alright, so I've got 3 branches right here that I'm gonna thin this out. Take the inside one out. I'll leave the outside one for now. That's coming out right here. I don't want to take any more than I have to off, because obviously it's got a ton of growth on it right now, right? So I'm going to leave this one like this and put it back over here. And we'll revisit all these trees again later once they start growing a little bit more. Then I've got this one that I was so excited about. It looks so good. And I've got some growth on here, so it's not a total loss. So this tree is going to have some really crazy character. It's going to be a really weird tree. We'll see how this one turns out. I'm going to try to keep as much of the actual tree as possible. I am going to take off all the dead branches, and I'm going to take them off flush with the trunk here. These are like dead, very dead branches. And they've already, I waited a little bit longer than I normally do to take off branches that have died or look like they're dying. But kind of looks like that's okay, because this is dead bark already. This is already bark that'll shed off. Looks like I've got another little bud right here. That's really exciting. I'm going to leave part of the top of this. I'm going to cut this back, but I'm not going to cut it clear back to the base here. I'm going to use these guys to cut it off here. There we go. Just like that. That's craziness. And I know I've made a video about this, but if you haven't seen it, maybe go back and look at it. I don't remember the name of it, or if, honestly, I don't know if I have done a video on this. I've done other videos where I've cleaned it up, but I don't remember if I did a video of me potting this tree or not. But there's a rock right here, and then there's a rock right here on the roots. So eventually this tree will sit with the rocks closer to the surface of the soil, and the roots will be going down into the soil. Now it looks like I've got a tiny little bud right here too. That's awesome. I'm wondering if I'll get anything out of the root. I don't know if I will or not. So that would be kind of cool. Have some pieces coming out and make it just like a banyan style craziness. That'd be really cool. We'll see. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this tree. Bring it a little bit closer so you guys can see. Yeah, pretty cool. All right, and this will be the last one I'm gonna work on in this video today. Pull some of this nonsense out. Yep, I gotta be careful at the base of the tree. It's got a lot of backbutting at the base of the tree. I think I'm gonna leave that and see what I can do with it. See if I want to keep it or not later on. I'll let it get some bigger. Because it being at the base of the tree, if I do decide to get rid of it, it'll have thickened up the trunk. I actually might leave the clover for now too. This type of clover doesn't grow really crazy, and it has some really cool flowers when it blooms. So I'm gonna leave that for now. All right, so this is going to be the top of the tree. It really looks like there is nothing up here, and you can tell when it's dead. I've said before it feels like spongy or squishy, but you can tell because the bark, you can just peel it right off, and you can feel that it's just loose from the tree. And then right here it gets tight again. So if I pull this, it just pulls right off. And then if I pull it downwards, which I don't know if I can from this or this spot, but it gets tight right about here, right here on the tree. So that means this is all dead, and this is what's alive. So I think I can cut through this with these. It's gonna be if this was a harder type of wood, this wouldn't cut that. But yeah, that's a lot of tree that had to come off. There's a lot of people that cut their trees back, trunk chopping and stuff like that, and it makes a really cool tree. It makes a stronger trunk, a more powerful looking trunk, and it just makes the tree look like it's so much bigger. And I don't disagree with that. I just like to grow my trees as naturally as I can, and some trees you can do that and not spend an entire lifetime growing the tree, and some trees, if you do that, it'll literally take your entire lifetime to grow a nice bonsai tree. So having them in the ground and trunk chopping it, or having it in a large nursery pot and trunk chopping it and stuff like that, is definitely speeds up the process. I guess I just really haven't gotten into those type of trees, because those are more like deciduous type of trees that you would do that with. And the ones that I've got currently, I've grown them as natural as possible in a bonsai pot. Since they were somewhat smaller, something like about this size of a trunk, so yeah, it's going to take me a long time, really long time, to get them to be a larger tree, which I'm totally fine with. I enjoy the process. So it is alive right here, but this branch is not alive, so I will definitely take that off. And I have seen them backbud out of a trunk like this, so it could very well backbud up here, or this whole piece could die back to here. And eventually, if this does die back, it will die back in an angle down towards here, and then I can cut the dead part off and make it look more symmetrical, or make it look more natural. I mean, I could even later on, because I'm not going to do it right now. I want this to gain some vigor and recover from freezing. But I could very well chop it off down here and let this and this become the tree. Which I am kind of looking at it right now. See if I want to do that. I think I'm going to let this gain some strength first, and then I might air layer this off so that I can have a more solid trunk for another tree. Yeah, I'm going to do that. So yeah. I guess that kind of concludes this tree then. I'm going to be careful with not cutting off around the rings on this tree right here, because that could very well backbud right there also. And actually each one of these dimples in the tree or bumps on the tree could actually backbud and turn into more branches too. So that could be really interesting if all that popped out. I don't think it will all pop out, but who knows? Who knows? I've seen stranger things than that. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. Appreciate all y'all's support and y'all watching, and really appreciate the comments and thanks to all my loyal viewers. I really appreciate y'all. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and see you on the next one.